Hello everyone, I am the Meta Kirby, and welcome to my channel, The Commander Tavern. The Commander Tavern is a channel dedicated to my favorite Magic the Gathering format. The Brewery is a series on this channel showcasing my spicy brews and other deck techs. On this episode of The Brewery, I'll be discussing my take on a commander from Lost Caverns of Ixalan, Xavier Sal, Infested Captain. This video is sponsored by Wizards of the Coast. You can pre-order your Lost Caverns of Ixalan product using my link in the description. That would really help out the channel at no extra cost to you. To see other cool folks who support my content, check out the description below. That also helps out the channel at no extra cost. But the very best way you can help support the channel is with my Patreon. There are plenty of perks for being a patron, such as early access to certain videos, exclusive deck techs, gifts, and more for as little as $1. You can also become a channel member for just 99 cents. Show off your support with a logo next to your name and exclusive emojis. Or you can always support my channel for free by simply liking, subscribing, and sharing, which also helps out a lot. I put out a video every Monday, so you don't want to miss out. You can join my Discord server for free if you want to join the Commander Tavern community. All pertinent links are down in the description. Alright, let's get back to the episode. Xavier is a 3/3 human fungus pirate for 1 black, 1 green, and 1 blue. He has 2 activated abilities. The first one has you tap him and remove a counter from another permanent you control in order to populate at sorcery speed. His second one has you tap him and sacrifice another creature to proliferate at sorcery speed. The combo potential Xavier has is so strong that Sal is his last name, which is fitting because Sal is salt in Spanish, and your opponents are sure to get salty when facing this deck. So he's gonna put the Sol in Salty and the Fun in Fungus. Yes, Intruder Alarm and Thorn by Staff pretty much combo with anything short of the kitchen sink. However, I'm not going to beat around the bush here. There are so many combo engines that also work without going infinite to provide massive value and synergy. So I'll show you how best to combo with Xavier Sal, and then we can quickly go over the rest of the cards in the deck. Let's first go over all of the combos that happen with either Intruder Alarm or Thorn by Staff. For that we have either Scurry Oak, Herd Baloth, and Sapperling Burst. Of these, the hardest one to initiate is Herd Baloth because we first need a way to get a +1/+1 counter on it. However, Scurry Oak has evolved, so it can get one all on its own, and Sapperling Burst enters with 7 Fade counters. Since these all work the same, let's see the combo with Sapperling Burst as an example. For this combo, we only need Xavier Sal, Sapperling Burst, and either Intruder Alarm or Thorn by Staff. So let's assume we only have Thorn by Staff equipped to Xavier. First step is removing a Fade counter from Sapperling Burst to create a Sapperling creature token. Then we activate Xavier's second ability to sacrifice the token, proliferating all counters including Fade counters on Sapperling Burst. The Sapperling dying triggers Thorn by Staff before Xavier's ability resolves from the stack, untapping him. We're now where we started. This engine can power any triggers in play that care about creatures dying, entering the battlefield, etc. But we'll see those win cons soon. This also works with Intruder Alarm. The only difference is that Xavier will untap when the Sapperling is created instead of when the Sapperling dies. What matters is that he's untapped after either of his activations. The same process happens with either Herd Baloth or Scurry Oak. When either of these get a +1/+1 counter, you create a creature token. You then sacrifice that token to proliferate, putting another +1/+1 counter on the creature. This will trigger it, creating another creature token. If Xavier were equipped with Thorn by Staff, he'll untap when sacrificing the creature. If you control Intruder Alarm, he'll untap when the creature token is created. And thus, these 3 cards go infinite with Xavier and either Intruder Alarm or Thorn by Staff. Cards like Arlen, Voice of the Pack, City of Death, the Sea Devils, Rite of Bells and Lock, and Genesis of the Daleks go infinite with only Intruder Alarm and not Thorn by Staff. These are the only sagas that go infinite with Xavier and Intruder Alarm because they have consecutive chapters that create creature tokens. Let's quickly see each after showing how to go infinite with Arlen. Arlen's triggered ability puts a +1/+1 counter on each wolf or werewolf that enters the battlefield under our control. So we activate her loyalty ability, creating a wolf token that enters with the +1/+1 counter. We activate Xavier, removing that +1/+1 counter to populate the wolf token. This triggers both Intruder Alarm, untapping Xavier, and Arlen, putting a +1/+1 counter on the new wolf. We're now back to where we started, but better, because we gain a 2/2 wolf token each time we do this. The Sea Devils, Rite of Bells and Lock, and Genesis of the Daleks all work the same way because they have the same first couple of chapters. So let's use Genesis of the Daleks as an example. We create a Dalek artifact creature token when it enters the battlefield, getting a lore counter. We sacrifice that Dalek to Xavier to proliferate the saga's lore counters going to the next chapter. This triggers the saga, getting us a new Dalek artifact creature token. This in turn triggers Intruder Alarm, untapping Xavier. We now activate Xavier to remove a lore counter from the saga to populate the Dalek token. This triggers Intruder Alarm, untapping Xavier. Notice that we're now back to where we started, but better, because we gain a 3/3 Dalek token each time we do this. The same thing happens with the Sea Devils and Rite of Bells and Lock because they have 2 consecutive chapters that create creature tokens. This also works with City of Death but only from chapter 2 onwards, and we need to already control a creature token to start the loop. But the deck already creates creature tokens, so it shouldn't be an issue. It's just not self-contained, similarly to how Herd Baloth also goes infinite, but not in a self-contained way, since it does not have a built-in way of getting that +1/+1 counter. But the deck is running Mirrex and Tyrite Sanctum. Neither take up a slot in the deck for being lands that tap for mana while entering the battlefield untapped. Mirrex can create a token, with Toxic 1 by the way, which is amazing if we can start proliferating poison counters, to help start combos, and Tyrite Sanctum can put a +1/+1 counter to help start combos, particularly with these two cards that don't do so on their own. Or use Nesting Grounds, yet another land that doesn't take up a slot, to move a counter where it needs to go. Going back to combos, cards like Fugitive of the Judoon and Garruk Cursed Huntsman are harder to pull off since they require having both Intruder Alarm and Thorn by Staff. That being said, there's still combo pieces worth including, so let's quickly see how they work. Let's start with Garruk. We create 2 wolf tokens with Garruk's 0 loyalty ability. The tokens add a loyalty counter to Garruk when dying, so with the free sacrifice outlet, Garruk would only need Intruder Alarm to go infinite. In this case, we remove a counter from Garruk with Xavier to populate a wolf token. This triggers Intruder Alarm untapping Xavier. We then sacrifice a wolf to Xavier, putting a counter on Garruk and proliferating. This triggers Thorn by Staff, untapping Xavier. We're back to where we started, giving us infinitely many death triggers, enter the battlefield triggers, and if we started with another creature, we'd be able to ultimate Garruk instead of using his loyalty ability to create the 2 wolves. Fugitive of the Judoon works like the other sagas, but it doesn't create a creature token in 2 consecutive chapters. Instead, it does so in the first chapter when it enters the battlefield. We sacrifice the human token to Xavier to populate, getting the saga to chapter 2. This creates a clue token, but Thorn by Staff will untap Xavier. We now activate Xavier to remove a lore counter from the saga, populating the Alien Rhino token. This triggers Intruder Alarm, untapping Xavier. We're now where we started, giving us infinitely many death triggers, enter the battlefield triggers, and clues. With infinite mana we can dig through our library, but we'll see those outlets soon. Other combo engines with Xavier come in the form of Devoted Druid and Cinderhaze Wretch. We already need a creature token in play to start the infinite combo, so they're not self-contained. That being said, the deck has so many ways to create tokens that these are definitely worth including. So let's see them in action. Either of these also work with Intruder Alarm. We can activate either of these by tapping it down. We then put a -1/-1 counter on it to untap it. We then activate Xavier, removing the -1/-1 counter and populating. This triggers Intruder Alarm, untapping Xavier. We're back to where we started, but with an extra creature token. And if we had Devoted Druid, infinite green mana. With Cinderhaze Wretch, keep opponents hellbent. This one is especially salt-inducing. As for what we're using to close out games, there are plenty of outlets to sink this infinity in. But just in case, Moldavine Reclamation and Liliana Dreadhorde General are included to make use of those infinitely dying creature tokens. So if we had any of these but none of our closers, we could just draw until we find it. As a bonus, Liliana can also start us off by creating a zombie creature token with her +1 loyalty ability. Erebos Bleak Hearted also triggers whenever a creature dies, but we have to pay 2 life in order to draw. So hopefully our combo piece isn't too far in. Fortunately, this trigger has the You May clause, so we don't die to our ability. Season of Growth helps us find it faster if the card draw engine included Erebos. We can just scry until we find the combo piece, and then the next card we draw is the game-ending piece. All this being said, Vampiric Tutor, Demonic Tutor, and Grim Tutor get the job done. Not only do these help us close out the game, but we can also use them to tutor for Intruder Alarm, which is needed for the combos. These card draw effects are also good when not going infinite, but we'll see the rest of the card advantage pieces later. Prologue to Phyresis, Ichor Rats, Infectious Inquiry, Phyresis Outbreak, and Vraska's Fall actually end the game though. If we're proliferating infinitely many times, then it won't matter if that particular engine doesn't give us infinitely many creatures, since we'll be able to give opponents enough poison counters to kill them. If we did create infinitely many creature tokens, either Concordant Crossroads, Akroma's Memorial, or Ulvenwald Oddity will give our boards haste to overrun the table with a game-ending army. Well, you have to transform the oddity first, but yeah, infinitely many hasty creatures will get the job done. It's also easier to turn the non-infinite creature token infinite proliferate engines into infinite creature ones if we control either Adrix and Neve Twin Casters, Parallel Lives, or Primal Vigor when we loop through it. Not only are these amazing on their own, they'll help turn every infinite engine into an infinite creature token creating engine. One thing to note is that Doubling Season is not included in this deck. It does not discriminate and it's not optional. So it will double the lore counters placed on sagas, which will prevent them from being usable as combo pieces. This is very important. These 3 cards are good enough though, so you don't need Doubling Season, nor do you even want it here. Thanks to these cards and a haste enabler, you win then and there, or just wait a turn around the table, keeping interaction up to protect your board, but we'll see that near the end of the video. Cards like Grim Poppet, Grave Pact, and Dictate of Erebos doesn't win us the game outright, but they make it easier to keep us alive until we do. If we're infinitely proliferating, then Grim Poppet will always have the -1/-1 counters necessary to kill off all creatures on the board so long as they don't have Shroud or Hexproof. It also enters with -1/-1 counters on it, helping to start any combo. The other two do so by forcing opponents to sacrifice creatures whenever ours die. Since we're sacrificing creatures infinitely many times, they will not be able to keep any creatures in play. Salt-inducing indeed. Other interesting things the deck does is copy Xavier Sal himself, just for the lols. Helm of the Host, Ereticus' Vile Duplication, and Quantum Misalignment can create a token copy of any creature, but what better creature than our commander, especially when these effects make the copies non-legendary. Imagine the flavor win of creating infinitely many copies of Xavier Sal, one with the ship, one with the crew indeed. Bramble Sovereign is another copy creating card in the deck, but they're legendary if the original is legendary. This is another great way to start things off by creating a token. However, as with all of the other infinite pieces, all of these cards are also amazing on their own, as well as when parts of synergistic engines. Same with something like Yawgmoth Transposition. For just 1 life and sacrificing a creature, we can put a -1/-1 counter on another creature and draw a card. This ability is already strong, but if we're creating more tokens than counters placed, we can realistically use this as an engine if we had enough life to power it. If that wasn't enough, for double black and discarding a card we can proliferate. Granted, this is in dire straits, but it's still an option available to us. The rest of the deck is the interaction, card advantage, and mana acceleration pieces that all commander decks need. While we already saw the synergistic pieces of interaction and card advantage in the deck, we still need some tried and true ways to deal with problems. Fierce Guardianship, An Offer You Can't Refuse, Swan Song, Counterspell, Mana Drain, and Negate help protect our board state or key pieces from removal or interaction, while Beast Within and Cyclonic Rift deal with anything already on the board. All of these are very straightforward inclusions. Same with Mystic Sanctuary as a way to recover any of these at instant speed thanks to the deck's fetch lands, keeping in mind that only the ones that can fetch for islands will get you the Sanctuary. These cards are ubiquitous for a reason. Lightning Greaves, Swiftfoot Boots, Champion's Helm, Mithril Coat, and Hammer of Nazan are included to protect our commander from opponent's own interaction. Our commander is at the heart of every combo, along with Intruder Alarm, so we need ways to protect him. Granted, he's very cheap to cast the first time, but once opponents get a whiff of what he does, he will always have a target painted on his back. Black Market Connections and Phyrexian Arena is slow and steady card advantage at the cost of life. As a bonus, the first one can also create treasure to accelerate our mana, as well as a creature token to help start any combos. Rhystic Study is also included because why not? The deck is made to make opponents salty, so you might as well revel in it. The deck draws so many cards that Reliquary Tower, Thought Vessel, and Decanter of Endless Water are included to help us keep that fat hand. As a bonus, the last two also function as mana rocks, with Soul Ring being the deck's only other mana rock. It's a commander deck, so we need that mana acceleration. Speaking of which, the deck is running Farseek, Nature's Lore, 3 Visits into the North, and Rampant Growth as its land-based mana acceleration suite. There are no better mana acceleration than land-based, so these do so in spades at 2 CMC. Speaking of, Cabal Coffers has the potential of generating a ton of black mana thanks to Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth. But the deck also has a ton of swamps already in it. Yavimaya Cradle of Growth is the other land helping us fix our colors, but we don't need to worry too much about that. In any case, the last two don't take up slots in the deck, while Cabal Coffers definitely does, since it does not tap for mana on its own, so keep that in mind. The rest of the deck is just Threats of the Lands. Apart from the others already shown, the deck's running all 9 fetch lands, all 3 shock lands, all 3 snow duels, all 3 slow duels, Zagoth Triumph, Command Tower, and Ancient Tomb, as well as 9 of each snow-covered basic land for all the land-based ramp effects in the deck and into the north. As with all of my deck techs, you can build your mana base according to your budget. Whether you include more expensive cards or even cheaper cards is up to you. You do you. This brew is just an idea of how to build around Xavier Sal, Infested Captain. Xavier just oozed combo potential along with his spores and seawater. The moment I read this card, I knew exactly how I would build him. Sure, everything combos with Intruder Alarm, but I love all of the puzzles you have in play in the meantime. As I previously mentioned, yes, all of these synergistic engines go infinite once you have Intruder Alarm. But, in the meantime, you can do a lot of fun things full of value. If you're interested in the decklist of this spicy brew of mine, you can find a link to it down in the description. I would like to thank all my patrons for supporting me, and a quick shout out to all my higher tier patrons, the brewers, for their patronage. I also want to thank any channel members. Your membership is greatly appreciated. I'd also like to thank Wizards of the Coast for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to check the links in the description too. They also help out the channel. And to everyone else, Thanks for watching this episode of The Brewery on the Commander Tavern. I am the Meta Kirby, and happy brewing!